Welcome back. Here today with Hank Hamilton, County Manager of Washington County, Florida. Hank, we pointed out that you are 8 months into your career here in Washington County. Give us a thumbnail sketch about Hank Hamilton. I know you were former Air Force, came to us after a career there. Give us the short story. Who is Hank Hamilton?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Paul. I'm a retired Air Force officer. I did almost 26 years in the Air Force. And so I retired and decided that I actually needed to work for a living. And so I was able to interview for the county administrator position and was fortunate enough to be hired and found a beautiful place in Vernon to settle down in and just really became a part of Washington County and have been welcomed with open arms since I've been here. So
you hit the ground running.
I did.
You came at a time where Washington County was extremely busy. New courthouse, brand new school in Chipley. Obviously, that not necessarily under your purview, but all of this activity going on, lots of which you had to coordinate. You mentioned in the pre-show that you enjoy a great relationship with Kevin Cruz, now Washington County Sheriff, with Joe Taylor and the Washington County School Board and the school district as a whole. The municipalities contained within Washington County. Right. You know, many people don't know Ebro and Caryville are part of Washington County because they're so far removed from the county seat. Talk a little bit about how that's all happened and how you've been able to forge those relationships.
Okay, sure. And it all starts with just going out and meeting them. You know, so it's important to establish those relationships. You know, Sheriff Cruz was running for the election. You know, during the election when I got here, he was still in the campaign mode, and so I saw him at multiple events and things like that. And really, after he got elected as the sheriff, kind of sat down with him and just told him and said, "Hey, listen, me and Sheriff Haddock had a great relationship for just a few months that I've known Sheriff Haddock. Let's continue this because what can I help you with as a county?" And very productive conversation. And he was able to in return say, "What can the sheriff's department do for you?" And so we hit it off immediately. Me and Sheriff Cruz did. The Washington County citizens are very lucky to have Sheriff Cruz. He's a great man, and he'll serve us well as our sheriff. And so we were able to just form a relationship where we talk to each other probably once a week about how can I help you and how can you help me, and so those type of relationships are helping us with things like, for example, our courthouse has 4 elevators in it, and so those elevators each have a telephone in it. Well, we're supposed to have a monitoring contract with an elevator company that says if someone gets stuck in this elevator, they can pick up a phone and call a monitoring company. Well, Sheriff Cruz was like, "Why don't you just call us instead and save the money?" So with his idea and the board's action and the staff's all working together, we got it to where if you get stuck in a courthouse elevator, you call and the person in Washington County Sheriff's Office dispatch picks up the phone. They're across the parking lot. It made sense, right? But just having those type of relationships enables us to make decisions like that saves money for the county. Same thing with Ebro and Caryville and Vernon and Walsall. All the municipalities are important to us. And so going out to their town hall and talking to their clerks and their council members and attending their council meetings, that's all important stuff, because if the county is in a position to help the municipalities, then we will. Of course, the municipalities are their own governments, and they have home rule, and we understand that, and we don't want to step on the toes of the municipalities, but we are certainly there to help when needed. So, but again, I think it's important that I was able to, or that I formed those relationships early, because the county may need help from the municipalities as well. And so, if you don't have those relationships, then those connections, they suffer. And so what you need to do is get out there, talk to the council members, talk to the residents of the city, and say, "Hey, listen, the county, we're on your side, and we want to help you succeed. And if you're successful, we're successful." There's a saying, that high tide lifts all boats. And so we want everyone in Washington County to succeed. And so not just the unincorporated areas.
You could argue that prior to 2005, 2006, we were sort of in a false economy. Anybody could could buy a home and with no money down and end up with a check back to them at the closing table. Lots of development, lots of building, but it was all based on quicksand, basically.
Yeah, sure.
The bubble burst, which is not a bad thing. Things need to reset, things need to get re-regulated. We've now had that 10 or 12 year period, and because of having to come through those harder times, I think that's what's helped to forge those relationships. Bring somebody in like yourself from without the area. Sometimes it's nice to bring in or to promote within a staff from within, but the problem there is the dangers of nepotism and favoritism.
Sure.
It's human nature.
Sure.
It is what it is. I think the best thing that Washington County did was to bring you from without the county, from outside that bubble, and you've done a great job so far. In our talking, you've kind of clued me in on a bunch of things that I was unaware. Give us some other examples of what's going on.
So, as the courthouse got wrapped up, we were able to give back, or we're in the process of giving back $750,000. And so that's huge that we were able to construct a $9.2 million building ahead of schedule and under budget. And so that rarely happens anymore, So working with the contractors, the architect, we had a courthouse committee composed of, our county attorney, some board members, the members of the judicial system, Judge Patterson and Judge Bill and the like, and just make some very smart decisions about how to get this thing done, working closely with our GAC contractors and JRA architects, and being able to give money back to the governor, and say, hey, thanks for what you've given us. Here's how we can say thank you. So not only for giving us this beautiful building that is really kind of the centerpiece of our county. It's a wonderful building right there on 90. It's the big columns and the big American flag out front, and so just thanks to the state of Florida. Here's our thanks is $750,000 that we didn't have to spend on the building that you gave us. So.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you bring that up, and that would have probably been at the top of my list of things to talk about. The Washington County Courthouse, $9.2 million, the only courthouse that has been state funded in anybody's collective memory.
That's right.
It's not the state's responsibility to supply a county courthouse. It's the county's responsibility.
That's correct.
There is a very divisive atmosphere within the argument, and I understand everybody's got their own stance, but at the end of the day, a lot of people don't think that we should have allowed the courthouse to get to the point it was at. Doesn't make any difference. It was what it was.
Yeah, that's right.
When they slap those red stickers on there and they say no entry, health hazard, there's not a lot of options.
Right.
You came right at the time when we were dealing with all of the overcrowding in the annex building on South Boulevard.
Yep.
We had the court being held there next to the probation and parole in that very small building.
Yep.
Talk about how your life has become a little more easy since that courthouse has been finished and now is occupied.
Yeah, so we had the clerk of court's office in our annex, and we missed them. So they were great neighbors, so our suite mates, roommates. But they were there. The traffic flow for the annex has decreased dramatically. So, daily we would point to where the clerk's office was or to where the records were and things like that. So we don't have to do that anymore. So our workload is decreased in directing traffic, so that's good. So, but, Laura Bell has got a great office over there. Her staff has got a wonderful facility over there to work in. And so it has helped us. We were able to kind of reorganize, not department-wise, but kind of real estate-wise inside the annex to where we made some office moves that made a little more sense for us as a county staff. And so people got a little more elbow room to kind of to spread out a little bit, and so we're grateful for that. But it was Miss Bell and her staff were wonderful tenants of our unit, if you will. So and we hated to see them go, but it definitely has quietened down and made the traffic a little less there.
Our firm has the fortune of working with the county to document that whole procedure. I don't know how fortune is the right word, but we had the opportunity to do tours of the basement of the old former courthouse and document the mold and mildew and the health hazards, all the way up to the construction of the new building. Includes aerial footage, it includes lots of photos and videos.
Right.
Really good time lapse there, and we're right now making it something that's easily digestible, because easily that could be a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, right.
That said, that building is under your purview as county manager.
That's correct.
You're responsible for that building.
Yes.
I hate to even introduce any negativity, and I don't look at it as negative, but what, if any, liabilities do you see as part of your job associated with that building. What extra responsibilities or duties or liabilities does that bring to the table?
Well, you can think of a few. We probably could use another bailiff because of the square footage of the building, but that means that you have to have funding for another employee, right? So, that's something that we'll work with the sheriff on if that's something he's interested in. Just the maintenance of the building itself. Now we've incurred this energy bill. Now we've incurred, the systems that run the water and sewer and things like that. So, we've created a bill now to maintain this huge structure, and so we've been real smart with our decisions as far as what we're putting in it to be energy efficient and things like that to keep the cost down. I've got an app on my telephone where I can look at each room and see what the temperature is on it, and if it's unoccupied or occupied, and I can make adjustments accordingly. So
not only can you monitor it, but you can change it as well?
I can set thresholds, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So if it's 75 and they want it to be 78 and the threshold's 75, then I can up the threshold to 78. And but it's the lights that cut on when you walk into a room and cut off when you walk out of the room. Those things are smart decisions to keep the power bills down. And so we've got a cleaning crew that comes in there under contract that goes in there and takes care of those facilities so that we can have it for a long time. We've got a landscaping crew that comes in there, and so that it looks good for the citizens all the time, because we want this thing to be the centerpiece of our county. And so yeah, there's some liabilities associated with it, but they're minor in the grand scheme of things. So because we're going to have this building for a long time, and the good thing about the courthouse committee was they had enough forethought to make decisions that keep this thing in good shape for as long as possible. So let's do this and let's do that. Not thinking about tomorrow, but thinking about a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road.
Not one of the things that was on my list to talk about, but you bring up an interesting topic. What is the projected lifespan of that building?
I would think that you'd want to keep it for 50 to 75 years at least. Yeah.
So that's in our day and age, that's not unusual that something built around now would last about that. Does that cost out? Recognizing that the state paid for it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we're in good shape.
yeah. In 75 years, if we need another building,
right.
Are we making efforts now to put money towards another building already? Is that something you even think about now?
Well, we will. We will think about that in next coming fiscal years. Maybe not this one, the next one, but it is something that the county has to start thinking about pretty serious, because courthouse is not the only building, right? So we've got to think about how are we going to save money for capital improvement. And so we need to start building that into our budget. But, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So you've got to pull from somewhere. And so we'll have to do a real hard look at what do we pull from to put in reserves, or how can we generate revenue, additional revenue, so that we can create a budget item, a line item, so that we can save for future building repairs or future buildings here in the county. Because we're going to be, the annex is old. And so the Ag Center is old. And so these are buildings that will need to be replaced soon, and within the next 10 years or so 5 to 10 years.
Whether you save funds or generate new funds, that is from which you draw for capital improvements. Ag Center, that was the next thing on my list.
Okay.
Lots of rumors. I know that last information I had, you had gone through one grant process. There were multiples of those yet to come.
Sure.
Where do we stand, and what is the relative safety of that building, and what is the usability for how long as it's projected today, and what are we looking at in the short term as far as the replacement, if that's what we're going to do, of that Ag Center?
So I think the consensus of the board is a replacement building, but we will have to put some Band-Aids on it until that replacement building is, no kidding, constructed.
But at least that building is in good enough shape to warrant Band-Aids.
That's
You're
right.
not just throwing money away.
We're not, we're not going to let the citizens of the county go into an unsafe building. So the building is structurally sound, and we're monitoring the places where we have questions about. And so, but we've gotten $300,000 so far in grant money to repair the building. We've asked for another $750,000 this year, and so, hopefully we can get one built for 2.5, maybe $3 million, somewhere around in there. Tear the old one down, sitting on 7 acres out there. Tear the old one down, put a new one up, redesign it to meet today's needs versus 1960s needs. And so, some technology advancements, the energy efficient type stuff. So, if we can get that done and have a new ag center built within 5 to 7 years, that'd be awesome for our county, because everybody knows last year we had 25% increase in attendance and paid attendance into our ag center last year. So, and we predict next year will only increase again. So we don't see this thing slowing down any. And so it's important that we take the right steps, not only asking for grant money, but also saving for a new ag center for our county. And it's going to happen. It's just, things go slow when you're trying to save $3 million when you're when you're fiscally restrained.
Just the last several years ago, we lost the Blue Lake Community Building, and that provided a location for lots of fraternal organizations and family get-togethers, reunions, and parties, and wedding receptions, and what have you. Ag Center obviously was being used for that, was a little more expensive, was a little nicer than the Blue Lake Building, but with Blue Lake gone, everything falls on the Ag Center.
Right.
Many people don't realize what a social focal point that ag center is. There's really not much that goes on of any size that doesn't happen right now at that ag center.
Right.
So I would imagine, and it's hard to put this into the dollar and cents envelope, but the goodwill of having a community center which is available for use to the people in that county is huge.
Yeah,
and I would imagine that the county reaps benefits, if
sure.
nothing is in public relations because of that.
Yeah. We're excited when a group of 500 people want to come and rent the auditorium, for whatever the cause. And so, like you said, for reunions or annual banquets and things like that for different civic organizations, it's all part of building those relationships with the county government, and the civic entities that are out there that want to use a good facility. And so, if we can we'll hold on so we can get that ag center rebuilt, and then it's even going to be greater after we get a new one in there. So,
in my little insulated world, I can't help but think that you returning some of that $9.2 million gives you some points.
Sure.
So that when you do go back for more money for a different project, somebody up in Tallahassee says, you know what, they were good stewards of this money.
Yeah.
Do you feel that works in your favor?
Well, absolutely. So even though they're coming from different pots of money, sometimes your lobbyists, for lack of a better word, are the same people. So establishing those relationships with our representative and our senator is huge. And so they can help us and say, hey, look, you've given these guys so much money, but they've always come through, and they've even given back some. And so let's keep rewarding them, because they're good stewards of the money that you're giving them. So and it's we got a new board. The new board of county commissioners are up and in full swing now, and they understand the importance of fiscal responsibility. And so to have them understand, we need to save money for capital improvement. We need to not spend money on things that don't matter. And we need to make sure that if we have extra that was given to us and we have the ability to give some back, it is our responsibility, so that maybe another county can benefit from it, or whatever the case may be.
And that's a great segue. Our guest today is Hank Hamilton, County Manager of Washington County, Florida. When we come back, we're going to wrap up. We're going to talk to Hank a little bit about just that new sitting Board of County Commissioners. We've got a new we've got a new sheriff in town. We've got a new chief of police. And more importantly, from the economic development side of things, we've got a brand new Highway 79 project, which is starting to take off. We're going to talk about all that and how it relates to these new people that are in place, and maybe a brand new day for Washington County. We'll be right back.